Hello you guys, how you doing? I am back with a talking video. I know it's been so long since I've done one, but I was just waiting for some inspiration or motivation to fall from the sky, and it did today. Not really. It fell from Instagram, and it's from my friend Sujata. She is an amazing blogger from New Zealand. She blogs about all types of things ranging from beauty, fashion, lifestyle, product reviews, and things that matter to her, social issues, her own experiences, things that she believes strongly in, and one of which she shared recently in the last couple of hours was home ownership and the type of pressures and expectations and her journey as a new home owner. So she shared a little bit of what it was like to build their own home. So her and her husband just recently built their own home and they moved in, and it's a massive milestone. It is to be celebrated, and it is a huge success. And reading her stories truly inspired me to make this video because I 100% agreed with everything she said. Basically, the summary of what she said is there is no hard and fast rule. There is no one size fits all when it comes to home ownership, and I 100% agree. And there are people that might not agree with this, but home ownership is such a personal thing. It totally comes down to the financial situation. Do you really want to have a home? Do you want to have a mortgage? Do you want what sort of preferences do you have with your living arrangements? There are just so many things to think about when it comes to home ownership. And also comes down to teamwork and where do you both stand as a couple or friends. You don't have to be romantic couples, you know. I mean, friends buy houses together. Or as an individual, if you do want to buy a house on your own. It totally comes down to your values, your preferences, and where you stand with the idea of owning a home or having a mortgage. Now, as far as my husband and I are concerned, we definitely want a house. And by the way, if this topic does not interest you, that's totally okay. I totally understand. There are so many other topics and other videos on my channel that you can potentially check out. So please do. And I am sorry if this topic doesn't interest you, but I do feel strongly about it. And I thought I'd quickly get on here and say a few words and share my story and our perspective as potential future home owners. Home ownership, many dream about it. Now, it is heavily dependent on, I think, first of all, your value system and also the ideas that you're brought up around as a child, as a teenager, basically as a young person. So Sujata in her stories addressed the difference in values and ideas and expectations between her family and her husband's family, and that's totally understandable because no individual comes from the same background or value system, and that's what makes this whole process wonderful because you cover different perspectives, but also makes it just as tricky as well. As far as my husband and I are concerned, my parents owned their first home at the age of 54. Now, I do not come from a financially profound background. My parents are not the most financially well off, I would say. Majority of my life I was raised by a single parent on a childcare teacher salary. And so what that meant is even though this parent wanted to own a home of their own, they wanted to provide us children a safe home of our own. After spending all their wage on raising 3 children, there wasn't really much left of their salary to save up for a house deposit. But they persevered and they finally got their own home at the age of 54. I think that's freaking awesome. And she really wanted it, and that's great. Now, I did have my reservations about it at the time she got her house, but at the end of the day, she achieved what she always wanted and she's happy. So what can you say? That's pretty admirable. Now, as far as the other parent is concerned, wasn't really that much available in terms of financially or in terms of just, you know, providing in general. And they had their own demons and mental health things to think about, and as a result my siblings and I grew up with contradicting ideas around house ownership. So one parent was all for it and has always been wanting to have a home, and the other parent really did not have the mental capacity to even think about it. That kind of carried on for a really long time. I mean, I was well and truly an adult when my parents finally owned their first home. Now, what this means is when it came to our wedding and our wedding expenses and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff, and this is why I say that this whole video is coming from a perspective of a South Asian woman who was brought up with certain ideals, expectations, and traditions around home ownership, wedding expenses, ceremonies, and all that kind of stuff. It is a little bit different to the Western expectations and the way it works and dynamics around home ownership for the Western culture. But as far as South Asian culture is concerned, I feel if you are somebody who is wanting to own your own home, also provide for your own wedding expenses and all of that, it does somewhat set you back, unless you're like a crazy saving person, like a saving god, and you're really good at saving money. Then kudos to you. I really want to learn, so please holler at me and give me some tips. How did you manage to afford your whole brown wedding and buy a house in the first 2 to 3 years? That's freaking amazing. Good on you, because I truly admire that. But as far as us, typically the expectations around weddings is that the bride's side takes care of the wedding expenses. Now, sadly, I did not have a parent or like a parent that usually would take care of the wedding stuff. But basically, I was the father of the bride for my own wedding. Get the gist of it without me saying much. What that meant is, you know, I totally ran the whole show on behalf of the bride's side, and my mum was a huge supporting system for me, and I ran the show and got everything sorted. And my husband was truly very, very supportive, as well as my in-laws. They were really, really supportive as well. Now, what that meant was kind of set us back on our house ownership journey. Even though we wanted to have a smaller wedding so that the spending is a lot less, it didn't happen that way because of the expectations and all of that kind of stuff related to brown weddings. But it just meant that it did set us back. However, we're still working through our debts. We've paid off a couple and we're still working through our debts, and we've come out of the ones that we took out for our wedding, and we're so excited to be working towards, you know, getting a deposit ready and just working towards, you know, owning our own home. And it's so exciting. And this is why I feel so strongly about raising truly financially independent women. Now, I do not go on about independent women or harp on about it that much, and there is a reason for that. Again, this is my own personal thought, and everybody is allowed to disagree to what I'm about to say. I truly think when it comes to raising financially independent women, especially because there is a specific emphasis on raising independent women in South Asian communities, I think when it comes to financial independence, I think it's just as important to raise young women who are financially independent enough to afford their own wedding. And that is more important, especially with parents who are not financially well off, especially like, say, my own family. It just wouldn't work. Honestly, it would have destroyed them if they had to fork out for the entire wedding. And I think it's just as important to raise women who don't expect their parents to solely take care of the entire wedding expenses, buy them a house. You know, I have seen a lot of young women demand these from their own parents, and I don't think it's fair, considering their own parents may have their own debt, mortgage, expenses and stuff like that. Of course, as parents, they would want to give, and that's different. Accepting what the parent is giving is different. But I think as far as financial independency is concerned, it's just as important to raise women who are so independent that they can afford their own wedding and afford their own house deposits and their own home and work towards it. And there is really no timeline on this. There's no time restrictions on this at all. Everybody is on their own time. And if you do have a lot of parents, that's awesome. You know, that means that you can accelerate that process and you don't have to worry about your wedding expenses as much as, say, somebody from a lesser financial position. If you do have financially well-off parents, that's awesome. That means that you don't have to worry too much about wedding expenses, and you can work towards home ownership and stuff, and you can kind of accelerate that process, which is actually really good, and it does help the case. But if you don't, it is also not the end of the world. So I hope this whole video was insightful and kind of adds like another perspective to this whole thing. I was a little bit nervous about talking about this, and I am sorry if I've hurt anybody or if I've said anything wrong. I just have, like I said, I haven't actually planned it. It just kind of went just verbal vomit. There is really no one size fits all. It's just our own timing, whatever works. And it's really easy for me to say this, but the reality is some days I do cave into that pressure. I do cave in and I think, oh my god, I'm on the other end of 20s, you know. I'm not 30 yet, no, there's a few more years till I'm 30. I'm like, man, by this age I had hoped for this, this and this. The type of life that I envisioned or have been told I should have is XYZ, you know, with this many kids and a house and stuff, and I'm not there yet, and I do cave into that, and that's when, you know, my husband goes, there's no, stop doing that to yourself. Why are you talking about us like this? You know, we've made a lot of progress, and we've done a lot of things on our own, and without external help, and that itself is a huge achievement. So stop talking about ourselves in this way. But yeah, it's easy for me to say, everybody's got their own timing, don't worry about it. But some days I truly get it. They are really hard. You do cave into those expectations. But just remember, we have to get through it, and it will happen no matter how fast or slow. And there are so many other things to life that are worth living for and worth enjoying, and home ownership is one of them, but it's not everything in life. So with that, I'm gonna end the video here, and please do let me know your thoughts on this issue in the comment below. And I also don't think it's right to shame people that do have well-off parents. That is wrong. It is not their fault that they have well-off parents. And I know as a teenager I used to look down on people who had well-off parents. That's purely because I never understood it. And I think even during uni years I had a bit of resentment towards people that had parents that gave them everything. But that's not right either, you know. They have what they have, and that is great. I mean, if I can't have it, I should be happy that somebody else has what I don't have. That's kind of the way to move forward, I feel like. Anyway, enough rambling. I hope you have a wonderful evening. It is Friday, and I'm starting my wedding season tomorrow, nice and early. So I'm so stoked. Life is good. Take care, you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Please remember to subscribe, and like this video and comment. Bye for now.